What's up? Welcome to twitch.tv/ Cameron+Deanna. Hope everyone's having a great day. Veroth and Deanna, how are y'all doing today? Thank y'all for coming by. Today we are going to be doing our yearly ranking of the games that I have played in 2024, parenthesis, calendar year. I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a moment. But we do this. We've done this the past 3 years, and I'm really excited to go and do it. We used to do this over on a different site. Now we're using Backlogged. If you use Backlogged, there is a link down in the description. And so you can come and join, give me a follow. We can hang out and be friends on there. I do also want to call out next week in before Minesweeper S tier. I mean, I've played a lot of Minesweeper. Call out next week. We'll be doing this same thing, but for the books that I have read this year. And so I have been gathering the thumbnails and going through and getting that ready. I'm currently, I think, at 55 books for this year, with the plan of getting at least 2 more done, just kind of based on the pile of comic books that I have over here on the side. I guess we could go to chatting. Yes, these comic books. And so the plan is going to be to go through and talk about those as well. And so in the description, we'll have a link to the previous years that we've done this ranking if you're watching over on YouTube. So check back and enjoy that. And yeah, so kind of some caveats to get into this. This is based on games that I have played in the calendar year. It is not based on games that that released in 2024. I do track that separately as its own list. So this is just anything that I have played this year. The exception being that I do not track like live service games that I played year over year. I don't do a lot of live service games, so that's not really super important. But like the big call out there would be like Magic the Gathering Arena. Like that is a game that I played this year, but it is not on this list because I have played that for a long time. Another example y'all see over at the top of this list would be like Teamfight Tactics. If that was a game that I continued to play into 2025, I would not talk about it then. And so, with the exception of there is some sort of major update to the game. And so like there would need to be something that would like redefine the experience. Okay, so Minesweeper Online doesn't count. Exactly. Yeah. Unless they added Minesweeper 2 to Minesweeper Online, then it would count. And so, this is also obviously the definitive ranking of all of these games. I will hear no criticism whatsoever. These are the objectively right answers and rankings for this game. This is not at all based on a vibe check from me for how I am feeling at this exact moment. And so, oh yeah, it's like as an example of all of that. So like here's my ranking from last year. We had Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, Valhalla, but like Unpacking breaks into the top 5, even though Unpacking was by no means a new game in 2023, but that is when I played it. And so that kind of controlled or bumped it up really high on the list because that game is amazing. And so I will say last year and for this year, my goal was to hit 50 different games played. This year, we did not get that. We'll talk about that with next week with books because I feel like I spent a lot more time with books this year than I have in any previous year. And so that's definitely a big part to why the games are a bit lower. Also spent a lot more time playing tabletop RPGs this year. So that was a big part of being in like multiple established campaigns and stuff like that. That definitely like added to the time that I did not have to play video games. And so a good use of that time. Anything else I want to call out? I'm also drinking some root beer today. So shout out to my in-laws that got me like a variety pack of root beer for Christmas. This is Bedford's root beer. It is very good. anything else I wanted to caveat? Story games will appear like year over year if I replay them. For this year, that's going to be relevant for Strangers of Paradise. For next year, we'll see what that means for Dragon Age Veilguard. I might just leave that off the list for next year. We'll see. But with all of that. And I should say, once we finish, we are also going to do a look at 2025 and the games that are releasing next year, or at least slated to release next year, and like what we're interested in. And so this is by no means the I'm going to play all of these games list, but this is just like, hey, what are some cool things that are coming out that I want to keep my eye on? And so without further ado, let's jump in. We are going to make this a ranked list, and then it is, so games are ranked for how I feel at the current, at the moment of the ranking. Doing the ranking. And so lists are always subject to change, but we will kind of talk through them. And so, okay, so kicked off the year with Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, a game that I'm pretty confident I mispronounced the title every time I talk about it, including when I did the rankings last year. I think this was the 50th game in 2023, and I did not finish it. Oh no, this is now ranked, so that doesn't matter. And I did not finish it. So this year was the finish. Actually, let me go ahead and click save so we can get the ranking numbers. No, did not work. And so, but yeah, so that's okay. They are there. Edit list. Okay. And so, really fun game. It's a hot mess. There's an expression over on Kind of Funny that it's a 3 out of 5 that I love like a 5 out of 5. I feel like Strangers of Paradise has some really cool ideas, and then there's other parts of the game that are just completely crazy. Video games, the best. And so Strangers of Paradise kind of wants to be a Final Fantasy Soulsborne-esque game, but because it brings in the class system that's so prevalent in Final Fantasy, there's some pretty big easy things of it, just just switch classes and you can kind of get through stuff. But the story, again, while completely nonsensical, is really fun, and in that super dumb way, kind of in the it's a B movie that everyone likes to watch to make fun of, but enjoys watching. And so we'll leave it here. Oh, and I should say, for the way that we do this ranking, I should say, Nate, thank you for coming in over on the YouTube. The way that we'll do this is that we will be moving these around as we talk through them. So we're not going to try to find a place for Final Fantasy Origin elsewhere on the list until we actually rank other games against it. And so something that I will say, this was also my first platinum of 2024. I went and got all of them, and the actual platinum grind for this game is really fun and is very different from the rest of the game, because the difficulty of this game is not I don't want to say is not based on skill, but for trying to be a Souls-like, the actual difficulty of the game is very much tied into your items stats. And so there's a whole lot of grinding to get the right gear, and then there's still a lot of skill involved. But there definitely is some big challenges there. And so it's a very cool idea. I would love it if they would bring it back and do a take on a different one of the OG Final Fantasies. But realistically, I don't think they're going to do that based on how this game was received. And I said the last thing that was really weird about this game, because it's based on gear, it kind of encourages you to not play the game, in the sense of the maps are predetermined, and so you're kind of encouraged, or there's slight variations, I think, but for the most part, the actual organization's the same, and where enemies or where chests are can rotate. But because of that, it kind of encourages you to just memorize the layouts, go run from chest to chest, and just get the stuff, and not actually fight enemies if you're just trying to grind up your equipment level. And so that's definitely an interesting side effect of like how the game works. So for now, it will stay number one because it is the first game that we are talking about. And so, and I should also say, as we go, chat, hit me up. What are your favorite games that you have played this year, whether they are released in 2024 or if they are released in a previous year and you just played or replayed them this year. Next up, we have 20 Minutes Till Dawn. I think this was a free game on Epic. It is a vampire survivor-esque game where you are trying to survive. We have another survivor-esque game later on, and man, like this genre, I feel like I should love a lot more. But the problem is, like, I feel like I just get burnt out on the like a good session having to go this actual time limit. Like, there's no way you can end sooner. You're literally just surviving, and so it's something that, like, I don't know, I feel like I struggle with because of that. You can't get an edge, but like this one was really fun. I do like that we're kind of seeing where Vampire Survivor is like obviously the most like streamlined version of that formula where you're literally just moving, trying to survive. There are these other versions where you get very different characters, very different abilities. I think in this one, most of the characters have some sort of firearm, and that like allows you to have these more unique abilities versus just the like shiny Christmas light stuff that goes around with the abilities that you collect. So I think I would rather replay Strangers of Paradise than 20 minutes, but that is where we're going to start. And Nate says I only play 5 out of 5s, and then 1000X Resist is probably your goatee. You really had a great time with Until Then recently, but you really had a good time with Until Then. I do not know what Until Then is. What is that one? So, and the 1000X Resist is like on my list. Like, I know we were talking about that over on Checkpoint Church when we were watching the Game Awards, but I want to get to that one because I've heard such good things about it. Next up is Carto. This is, I believe, was free on PlayStation Plus. And it's this cute little, like, I'm going to say indie. Like, I don't know if it's actually an indie game, but, like, it's this cute little game where you get separated, I think, from your grandma, and you end up with this magical map that lets you kind of, like, rearrange the world as you explore. Horrifying stuff to think about the implications of in real life, but, like, a really fun idea for a game. This is, I don't remember how long I played this. I put this game in the category of being too long. Like, I definitely feel like the gimmick wore out, and there were definitely times, maybe I just, like, wasn't paying close enough attention, but, like, there were definitely times where it was, like, you had to arrange the map tiles in very specific ways to get something to happen, and I definitely had to go and look up a guide so that I actually knew how to rearrange them, because even if there was like a hint or something, a lot of times I felt like they were really unclear. The story is cute, nothing crazy from what I played, but it is enjoyable. I think I would rather play Carto again, or finish Carto, than 20 Minutes Till Dawn. Oh, and I guess that's a good time to bring up, I do not have to have completed the game for them to make this list. This is just a game that I have played this year. And so, Until Then was your video game club pick last month. Oh, okay. It's a walking sim as always, but it does have some fun mini games. Incredible story. Nice. Yeah, I don't really get into walking sims. We'll actually talk about that with a future title. You don't see Baldur's Gate 3 here, Rebel. Well, that's because it's down here. We have not gotten there yet. And so, our fourth game is Teamfight Tactics. Also, Tasha, I hope you're having okay, we're still cool. I hope you're having a great Sunday. Thank you for coming by. Let me know what your game of the year is. I'm going to assume it's still still Baldur's Gate. And so, but let me know. And so, fourth game is, Teamfight Tactics. This is based on League of Legends. It is an auto battler. It has been around for quite a while. I just like played it for the first time this year. This game kind of hits that weird part of you can do a good amount of planning, but it still feels very random in the sense of like what you do, how you build your comps and stuff like that. It seems like Riot is doing a cool job like keeping it updated with seasonal changes and stuff like that. It's a game that I kind of like fell off of, but like I did really enjoy my time with it. It's definitely like either in this like 1 or 2 slot for us currently. I think I'm going to put it in 2. Part of that is I do feel like there was some explanations in the game that were pretty unintuitive from like a menuing perspective. And so that is something that I definitely feel like they could have addressed better. There were definitely things where that I kind of got lost a bit, but this did get me to go and like look up builds and look stuff up and all of that. And so I did really enjoy that time with it. You know what? It's going to be number 1 for the moment. And so Nate says, you have a separate rolled credits list. I like that. I feel like my problem is I don't necessarily roll credits on a lot of games. Or a lot of the games that I do play, Panda Boy,
hello there,
that have endings. I feel like having a rolled credits list makes me feel like I have to play them and finish them versus falling off. And so that's why this list is not about rolling credits. And so, but I do think it'd be an interesting separate thing to track. Or if I played a lot more indies. And so, let's see. Next up for number 5, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This had come out, I think around the launch of PS5, or when Final Fantasy VII Remake came to PS5. I had missed it. And so leading into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I decided to go and play this little side story. It's fun. It's cute. I definitely think it would have been interesting to have played this directly after playing 7, because I believe we streamed this in 2 sessions. I did not remember how to play this game. Like had no clue, did not remember the combat system, did not remember any of that. But it's cool. I mean, it obviously has Yuffie in it and then her friend that's also helping her. And so it's a very fun idea. Love the marshmallow Moogle coat thing that Yuffie has. Very cool design, very beautiful looking game as well as the Final Fantasy Remake games are. And it's an interesting story. And so, but it was by no means something that like felt necessary even going into going into Rebirth. Like, I feel like there might have been like 1 or 2 things I would have been confused about, but like there wasn't really anything that like I super felt like was necessary. And so I think this is going to land above Strangers of Paradise for now. And that'll lock in our top row. Oh, I should say also Yuffie, super OP, and love that they kept her super OP for when we get to Rebirth. And so you get a whole lot more credits rolled when you play more walking sims. This is true. And so I do have like multiple games on this list that we'll get to that I have put like 40 something hours into and not rolled credits. And I specifically didn't play Metaphor Refantasio this year because I knew I wouldn't be able to finish it. Like I knew I would be playing so much of that game. And so, yeah. Next we have Far Changing Tides. I'm kind of speaking of walking sims. This is kind of like a side-scrolling puzzle game where you have this like boat thing and you're trying to like navigate it and bring it through the world. It's an interesting like vibe for a game, but generally speaking, I kind of found myself either being bored with it or it was something where like I felt like I was punished for things that there were no way that I could have seen coming. So like you can like raise and lower the mast to get under obstacles or raise it to go faster. But because the game is kind of just like a side view of the ship, like you don't necessarily know what's coming. And so it's just like, oh, well, like by the time I saw that there was a bridge coming, I couldn't lower, or I couldn't get all the way, like navigate through to bring down the mast. So now stuff's damaged. Now I have to do this extra stuff to fix that. Very beautiful game. A game that I think would have like kind of has that same idea of like you could pause a lot of the scenes and it would make a cool wallpaper. From an actual gameplay perspective, I didn't overly like Far Changing Tides. And so You can pre-purchase Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on Steam. I'll save my opinion on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth until the next row. Next up, we have Nobody Saves the World. This is the dumbest game in the best way. Like, the idea is that you're playing this nobody, and then you have this wand that lets you change shapes into various different things. So you kind of start the game with some like relatively normal ones. Like there's a knight, there's a strong guy. Eventually you get a mouse that like lets you get stealth. And then it gets to like these really weird things of like a turtle, a slug, a horse, a horrifying mermaid creature, like a zombie. And these all like have their own different abilities, and that kind of helps you like defeat certain challenges and stuff like that. And so I played a lot of this game. Again, like I said, it is dumb in like the best possible way. And I really enjoyed my time with it. Just as this like very silly, like essentially time filler. Like that's kind of the theme of a lot of these early games, is like filling time until like the major releases of the year happened. And so like that's kind of what happened here. And I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's an easy game to recommend. The story is by no means fancy. Or no means like super interesting. This is like our villain character up here. I guess he's kind of the villain. He's like an antagonist, I guess. Not necessarily evil, but like it's a very fun take. It's a little dungeon crawl as well, of like you can swap the abilities between your characters. So like the horse has like a backwards kick, and then like you can give that ability to other characters and stuff like that. And so it's a creature collector in a different font. Yeah, you could definitely think of it as like, or maybe even like the idea of, like kind of like Cappy in in Mario Odyssey, where like you don't necessarily need to do this, but you can definitely like kind of get into capturing and like taking over the different enemies, and that kind of gives you different stuff. And so it's a fun one. It's a good recommend. I think I would put it here at third for now. Behind Rebirth and Tactics. Next up, Plague Tale Requiem. This is another game that we streamed. This is a sequel to a Plague Tale Innocence that we played last year, and I think as I scroll through, and so did we? Maybe it was the year before that I played the other Plague Tale, and so this is a cool game, and so. Fantastic story. It's a very beautiful game, and it's a very like different story as you play as this character who is trying to protect her younger brother. And then it takes place in this like fantasy-esque version of the plague. And so there's some very cool like story beats as you kind of get into like the history of what's causing this and stuff like that. My biggest complaint for this game is for like as great as the story is, I did not enjoy the overall gameplay. The idea is supposed to be that you are not like you're like a 15-year-old, like you're not supposed to be a warrior in the sense of like a lot of like JRPGs have that generic like you're a child, you find a magic sword, now you can go and defeat all of the enemies. This game kind of takes the opposite side of this, of like you have not been trained. You do have some tools at your disposal, but generally stealth is much more important than actually fighting. And yeah, generally speaking, it fits well from a story perspective, but I definitely had some issues with that when it comes to actually like navigating through some of the more challenging engagements and conflict stuff, and to the point that we actually ended up dropping down the difficulty, and that helped me enjoy the combat a lot more. I think for the story alone, this is my number 2 for what we've gone through. Actually, no, I'll put it above Teamfight. I highly recommend this game. Very fantastic, very unique story for video games. Yeah, it definitely, I think, has its problems on the gameplay. If you're, again, for me, since I wasn't playing on like the easier difficulties to start with. And so next up, we have Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. This was a game that, again, kind of was like a time filler for me. of like jumped in, played probably like 8 to 10 hours of this game. I played Yakuza Like a Dragon. That was my first game in this franchise. The Man Who Erased His Name is kind of coming back to the arcadey beat 'em up origins of the Like a Dragon series, and was really just kind of not my jam. It doesn't help that like I don't really have a connection to this character, and so other than like when he shows up in Yakuza Like a Dragon, but like it's a fun little beat 'em up. I don't necessarily have anything too crazy to say. There's a lot of like really fun, I don't know if dynamics is the right word, but like there's a lot of really fun dynamics in this game that centers around the like clear insanity of some of the side stuff that goes on versus the overall serious tone of the story itself. And that's present through all of the games in the franchise to my understanding. And so it's really fun. I enjoyed my time with it. Again, it kind of was a time filler. And it was filling time for our next game, which is Pal World. And so this is the, he's like Pokemon with guns, which is real, but really it's a survival game with monsters. And so when this came out in early access, kind of took over a lot of the internet, had a lot of fun streaming this with people. I believe it was primarily just Gary, Chunk, and Locke that we were playing over on this channel. And then I was also hanging out with some other people in other places. I was playing the Xbox or on PC, but the Xbox version, because at this time I still had Game Pass. And so there was definitely some annoyances there. Like you couldn't rename things in the Xbox version. It was farther behind the PC version. You couldn't have servers. And so there was definitely some stuff there. Overall, I really liked this game. I'm excited to get back in. It recently was released on PlayStation finally. And I know they have a new update coming as well. I have not finished even the content that was in the base game by the time that it came out. I was pretty hooked. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of exploring and trying to figure it out. I don't necessarily love the idea, like just because you're catching monsters, it's like Pokemon. Again, I think that this is much more like survival sim, but I do really like the way that they integrated the pals into this game, where there are some that like you like can literally pick up like a fox and it becomes a flamethrower. You ride on the flying pals and that takes you around the world. There are some that you like jump on their backs and then they become like mounts that you can also fight with. There's a lot of cool stuff there, and I really liked that. And I think it's a very cool integration. Again, from that like survival game series or from survival game take of like these help you survive. In some ways, like this has the feeling of what I loved about Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is like you are in a dangerous world and these pals will kill you. Compared to most other like Pokemon games where like most things in the world are like, whoa, this crazy legendary, it's going to come and get you. But then you just like hit it with a super effective attack and it goes away. And so, yeah, this was really fun. Like I said, I really want to return for it. At this point, I think I'm waiting for 1.0 and then I will jump back in and kind of use that as an excuse to just chug through all of the content that I have missed. But I really liked Pal World, and it was a great time for to take over the internet. Shout out to, I think it's Depresso, which is like the sad cat looking pal that has like the best like idle animation for when it's like mining resources for you. And so Pal World is very unequivocally our number one of this first 10 games. And so yeah, and there are definitely, again, I don't necessarily love the comparisons to Pokemon, but there are some things I really hope that Pokemon like can like not throw the baby out with the bathwater and can actually learn from this game. And so actually now we're done with 2 rows. I'm going to actually click save, just so with stuff because it doesn't get lost. And so, okay, so our next row of games: Baldur's Gate, Skull and Bones, Helldivers, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Sifu. Baldur's Gate 3, like, amazing game. Deanna and I played a lot of it co-op, or I've played all of that we have played co-op. The main reason that we fell off is actually because my PlayStation controllers started getting drift, and it made it very hard to navigate the menus of this game. It like became a huge problem as I was like playing a warlock, and as I'm like trying to select spells and select things from the menu, it like became a huge like stumbling block, and so that's part of why we fell off. I believe we got to Act 2, and it's kind of on the list of would love to get back to, would love to do like a solo campaign, like would love to play more. We'll kind of talk about this with some of the specific examples later on in this list that, like, again, this is by no means like a new take, but like it's crazy how much Baldur's Gate ruins RPGs. Like, just in the sense of like the extremely high quality of everything about BG3 really makes a whole bunch of other games like not stand out. It says this game is 99% menus. Like, you're not wrong. It's just kind of like the same idea of like D&D is actually just math. Like, just math disguised as a fantasy game. This is like a menu disguised as a like as an RPG. And so, but lots of cool stuff. I mean, I love TTRPGs. And Larian did an amazing job with this. I'm really excited for whatever Larian does next with this. This is a game that may show up on the list for next year, as well as like a 2025 game for me, kind of just based on what I get to if I'm able to do more and play more of it and kind of get a more established opinion. Realistically, this is probably like the best game that I played this year. But because we did only get to Act 2, I'm actually going to just like drop this as number 2 for this year. I feel weird having it like ahead when like I have not experienced the full thing. But realistically, this is probably like the number 1 game of this year. Next, like, let's do like a far swing the other way. Skull and Bones. As a reminder, this is not a list of games I completed this year. This is a list of games I played. I played Skull and Bones. I think I literally played the tutorial and then uninstalled the game. Like, it is a game that feels so far out of time that like I don't really know like what's going on here. I really wanted this game to be successful just because Ubisoft has put so much into it, and like it actually released instead of getting like quiet canceled. But like, I don't know, like there was nothing that I saw in the game from the tutorial that was like, oh yeah, I want to play more of this. And then like everything that I saw around it, I was just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not necessarily huge into like the live service game type vibe. And like, I just did not find myself caring. And so legitimately Skull and Bones is going to stay here as like the last place game, which I feel like is again, like the most mid take on this game. From one live service to another, Helldivers 2. I loved the first Helldivers, and so played a lot of that when it first came out, and it was this like isometric third-person like twin-stick shooter on like the PS3, and then they really just like revitalized it as a super fun third-person shooter. Like, I by no means went as hard on this game as other people did. I know a lot of people that like have played hundreds and hundreds of hours of this game, but I really enjoyed my time with it. It was also kind of like Palworld. When this released, there was just so much going on with it that it was so fun to jump into and stream this game with other people. Whether it was like people guesting on my streams or me guesting on other people's or just hanging out, knocking out a few missions with people. This game was super fun, and I'm very happy that it was so well received. And I know there's been some various missteps with it from like a live service perspective. But overall, I also feel like this is a game that has done super well at like keeping its community engaged and keeping things going. Managed democracy means this one must be my number 1. It's definitely up there. Let's go and take a look. But yeah, and also like it's such a silly game in the best ways. It wears its like inspirations on its sleeve. And yeah, it is so much fun. And so I think that this is going to land at number. It's in like this range here of it's either above or below Plague Tale. I think I'm going to put it above. But yeah, it's kind of in this like variation here of like I don't know what side it should land on. But it's a super good game, and I feel like if I either hadn't had the gameplay issues with Plague Tale, or I had started Plague Tale Requiem on easy difficulty, it probably would have been higher than Helldivers. But because I got so frustrated with the gameplay on higher difficulties, that kind of drug me out of this, and so I think we're going to land with it that way. Next up, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And so this is the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake, the second part in their trilogy. And then this is, it picks up like right where Final Fantasy VII Remake ends, and then takes you through this very interesting like timeline, alternate universe stories. Don't want to necessarily go into too much details there of the plot. But it's a very interesting take, and I really enjoyed this game. Like, this is a game that, like, kind of forget that I played, because I played a lot of it and then, like, have finished the game. I do wish the platinum for this game was not completely insane to get, because there's a lot of stuff here I would have loved to actually, like, gone back and spent more time with and just kind of noped out. This did also give us Queen's Blood, which is like the card game that exists within the game, where the story for that like that set of side quests goes way harder than it needs to go, and is like super fun in this like super Yu-Gi-Oh-esque like storyline. And so that was really cool. And yeah, I love the characters. Like the Final Fantasy VII crowd in party is so iconic at this point. And like getting to spend more and more time with those characters was a lot of fun, especially as you recruit more and more of them and kind of get that party filled out more. I will call out one of my biggest complaints is there was at least one of the open world areas that I did not like at all, just based on like the gimmick of that area. It's like while the game is not open world, it is like open zone. And so, yeah, there was one of them that I found super frustrating. And I was not a huge fan of some of the open zones felt a little samey. Like they did some good work to change up, like in this zone you don't need a chocobo, you have something else, or like the actual mini game to get the chocobo, it's like a similar thing, but like there are some major differences. And so like they did a decent job changing those up, but like I do feel like for a lot of the open world stuff, it just started to feel pretty samey towards the end. We're going to bump this up quite a ways. Again, like loved the story and the gameplay of this game. I think we're going to land with this at number 1 for our current moment. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll come and do like another pass through once we get through everything, but for the sake of time, we're going to leave it there for now. And chat, if you have played these games as we go through them, or if you see one farther down the list you want to talk about, feel free to drop those in chat, and I'll try to come and grab those messages as we get to the game. And if you do want to actually like just go look at the backlogged list for the whole thing, you can do that as well. And so, next up, this is number 15. We have Sifu. Very cool, like Kung Fu time loop game that came out a couple years ago. The idea is that, like, as a child, you witness your father being killed, and then you have since trained and are now trying to get revenge on, like, the 5 people that killed your father. The idea being then every time you die, you come back to life, but are a little older. And so the game kind of encourages this cool like mastery of the system where like if you can clear like there's 5 different zones. And so like if you start at like say 20 years old, I don't remember what the actual number is. but then like every time you die, you get older and older. So if you finish the first zone at like 50, you then start the second zone at 50, and you only have so many years, but you can go back and replay the first zone and try to get that time down so that you're in that area younger. So then you can take on the next zone and start at like 30 instead of 50 and stuff like that. And so for me, I'll say that I feel like this game's greatest strength is its greatest weakness, and that I am someone that tends to bounce around from various games to games, or like I'll have like a game that I was playing, and then I will come back and play another game on the side. So for example, here I was playing Sifu and Final Fantasy VII Remake side by side. And I feel like that is the wrong way to experience Sifu. I feel like I needed to have committed and only played Sifu until I beat it. And I kind of just felt myself like, I think this was the stream game while I was playing Remake. And I feel like there's a lot of times where I just felt like I was getting super rusty because I was playing like Final Fantasy VII while I was playing this game. And I think I got to the third zone, and whatever the museum is, that's where I got. I didn't finish that one, but this is on the list of games that like are super amazing, and I would love to go back and play, but I do not know if I will ever actually get there. But I would like to. And so we're going to bump this up. This is definitely a top 5 for where we're at currently. I think this beats out Plague Tale, which I guess kind of lands this as the split here between Helldivers and Plague Tale. And so, but yeah, very fun game that I would love to play more. Diablo 4 as the 16th game that we played this year. And so for this row, we do have Diablo 4, Tales of Kinzara Zal, Circus Electrique, Animal Well, and Tunic. Overall, a very good set of games. And so Diablo 4, very classic, very storied franchise at this point in time. This is when I still had Game Pass, and so I was going through and playing through this. I played through the full story of the game, paying no attention to the story. I was here to boop demons, and boop demons I did. Yeah. And so it was very fun. You say it would have beat Plague Tale for you. I really wanted to play Zao. Yeah, and we do have, Sifu did beat Plague Tale from me. And so Diablo 4 is very fun. I loved the classes. My biggest complaint, and this is the same reason I ended up piecing off of Diablo 3, and why I'm happy that I played this via Game Pass instead of buying a copy, is I kind of feel like the game just gets samey after a certain point. It kind of very much hits that live service grind of like, okay, there's a new season. What are we doing? This one mission type over and over again to get this resource to get my dailies done. And it kind of fell off because of that. I know there are people that love that style game. Your numbers are always going up, unlock new stuff for your other characters. And I really enjoyed my time with this game. But when it comes to the actual like post-game side of it, it was just very not for me. So let's take a look on where we're going to shake this up. I am liking actually just like go straight up one row. Actually, I think we're going to put it here. We'll put it ahead of Nobody Beats the World, but behind Intergrade. This is another game that like I would love for this to be a game that I really like and really click with, but I feel like the franchise as a whole is just kind of not how I play games. And so next up, Tales of Kinzara, and Platinum that I got this year. Very fun, like Metroidvania esque game, very much based on like African American or African cultures. Is a fun indie game, and I think the biggest thing that I have to say about this game is that it's very fun, but it's not very memorable for me. That like a lot of the combat is a good Metroidvania. A lot of the story is an interesting story, but like it kind of just falls away past that. Like there's, it's a game that is like a solid good, but not a solid amazing. And I would definitely recommend people play it. And I don't by any means regret the time that I have with it, but there was kind of nothing here that really sat with me long term after I beat it. And so I think we're going to move this up behind Strangers of Paradise. And yeah, that's kind of where we're going to have that sit for now. Next up, we have Circus Electrique. This is another game I believe was free from Epic that we played on stream here, and I played a little bit on my own. It's a Darkest Dungeon style game where it's like steampunk, like circus vibes. And so all of your party that you go exploring with are all like circus performers, and then like there's synergies based on what they do, and then like there's also a circus show going on, so like you can send some of your people to actually like work at the circus where they can earn you money or earn you boosts based on all of that. It's a very fun take on that Darkest Dungeon formula. The game as a whole kind of just felt too long. I definitely fell off as Animal Well released, and overall I really like did enjoy it, but it's something that I don't necessarily think I would ever go back and play more of unless I just like got a very specific itch to play that game. I think I'm going to put it here behind Tales of Kenzara. That feels right for now, and so we'll kind of see how that shakes out later. Next up, Animal Well. Like basically like a 1 or 2 person dev team, right? A game that like is loosely a Metroidvania, as like you are this little blob that is exploring this well and you're finding all of this stuff. This is a game that like very much took over the internet, and then as people like solved the puzzles, everyone kind of moved on from it. But like this game was everywhere for like a month or like several weeks, and so I feel like this game is something kind of similar to Sifu. Like this game's greatest strength is its greatest weakness, and that is like they are really good at making these puzzles. And like for me, that kind of left me in the camp of like I really don't want to like notebook my way through this game, and so ended up using guides when there were questions and stuff like that. One of the interesting things about this game is like there's no combat. Like you have the ability to kind of like make threats go away from you, but you don't have ways of kind of deterring or to actually like stopping things. And I will also say there's definitely some obtuseness in this game. One of the sections you're like chased by this monster dog thing, and it's very annoying IMO when you're going through it and you haven't necessarily figured out what's going on and how to control the game well and stuff like that. And I wish there was a little bit better like signposting for stuff like that, because it just kind of feels like you can hit your head for a very long time trying to like get through specific sections. But with that said, I do like that the sections are designed to be tackled in any order that you want. So you don't like specifically need the tools from the other sections to help you, but like based on the order that you go in, some things could be very helpful for you. And so fantastic game overall. I think we're going to leave this as number 5 for now, beating out Sifu. But yeah, very cool game. Next up is Tunic. One of like, I don't know, arguably one of the best indies of the past decade. Finally got to it this year. I believe it was added to PlayStation Plus. And so I finally got around to playing it. I don't think I actually beat the game, but I did get through a large amount of it. A very interesting idea where you are this like Legend of Zelda, like Link-esque character, as we have like the key art of them holding their sword and shield. And like you go through and you eventually get these tools that help you fight these monsters. I will say this game, maybe kind of like similar to my issues with Hollow Knight, hits to the point of like, I know I'm supposed to be able to do X, Y, Z, but I can't tell if I'm ready to do that or if I need to come back. And I kind of feel like that happened to me a couple times with Tunic, where it was like, I don't know if I'm just like hitting my head trying to solve this puzzle and I'm dumb, or if I'm hitting my head trying to solve this puzzle and I'm going to find a solution later on. I do really like that for this game. It builds on itself. So like there are specific things that you have had access to the whole time you've been playing the game, but the game doesn't tell you you have access to them. And as you play, you get like basically instruction pages, kind of like the instruction pages of a classic like NES game. And as you fill those in, they are not in English. You have to kind of decipher bits of them. But that kind of like teaches you how to play the game. And yeah, so it's very cool, very fun game. I do want to at some point go back and beat it, but I don't know if I'm going to ever actually get there. I think I'm going to put it... I think I'm going to put it after Plague Tale. I don't necessarily feel great about this, but I do think it's below Sifu for me in terms of games that like I would like to go back and finish. I think I would much rather go back and finish Sifu. But I do feel like generally speaking, Tunic is like a much easier recommendation though. So we're going to kind of just like go here for now. And so, okay, next row. Oh, we actually have Marvel Rivals. I'm going to actually move this down to the end. We're going to talk about that one at the tail end of the stream, just based on actual release having just happened. And so, yeah, so then we're here for our next row. We have Marvel Midnight Suns, Day of the Diver, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Zenless Zone Zeros, and Concord. A very diverse list of games here. And so I played a lot of Marvel Midnight Suns when it came out. I played on PC. I had not actually beat it. And then this year it was added to PlayStation Plus. And so I went back and actually like finished the game, playing it there, got the platinum in it. And as I said, I think in 2022, when this first came out, this is like the most me game possible. It's like a Marvel RPG where you're building your team, building out your relationships with these characters, and you are kind of like developing out like your role in this world as you go and take on this threat. Very cool. I liked this a lot. I love Hunter as kind of like our protagonist that you can like customize who you are. And how you want them to play. And there is like a morality system in this game as well that I wish was a little less binary, but like it is what it is. And then a very cool, like diverse set of characters. Some of them definitely feel like they are there solely because they knew that if Spider-Man was not in this game, it wouldn't sell as well. So they put Spider-Man in it. Where like it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense for him to be there other than Venom's one of the villains. And so then there are other characters like Ghost Rider, Blade that very much fit this like spooky Midnight Suns aesthetic. Magic is in this game. She's one of my favorite mutants, and so I really like her and was very happy to get to play as her. Some of the characters have really fun gimmicks and stuff like that, and so there is definitely some cool vibes in this game, and I very much enjoyed it. Super grumpy Magic, definitely. She does not want to be here, but she is here to save the world. And so, yeah, so it's a very fun game. Again, a very me game. And what are you feeling? I feel crazy. I think I might put Midnight Suns as my number 4 for the current list. The card-based tactics is definitely not for everyone, but man, I am the target audience for this game. And I don't remember exactly, but I feel like getting back into this was right around when X-Men 97 had come out, or around that time. And so like, man, I was just so excited to spend more time with this game. And so Vras says, a review bit that you felt was spot on. Great game, but the downtime is slow. Problem is it's 50% of your time that you'll spend in the game. That's a good call out. Like the game, the way that the missions are set up is like you do have story missions, and then you do have other missions that you have to do in between story missions, but like it's not like necessarily a lot. It might just be like 1 or 2. And then you could go to the next story mission, or you could play more side missions, and that'll help you unlock more stuff. But it kind of can help power up enemies as more time has passed. I'll definitely agree with what Varoth said there of like, I do think one of the problems of this game is if you're in it just for the gameplay, you're not interested in the stuff at the Abbey stuff will grind you to a halt. I personally really liked enjoying the Abbey or exploring the Abbey. I think it was very cool, but like it is something that like if I was to go back and replay this, I think would really grate on me just because it is slow, and it's like there's not necessarily a lot that you can do other than, hey, go explore or completely skip this section and your character might be a little weaker because of it. And so then next up we had Dave the Diver, the best. It is an indie game now, and very cool game. The idea being that you are this scuba diver who also owns or helps run a sushi shop. And so the fish that you catch during the day, you can sell to customers at night. I kind of put this in the same category. Oh, I don't remember which one Nate said earlier. But like, this is a game that is like too long IMO, and I definitely feel like it drug at a lot of different portions. I definitely had some problems with the controls as well, especially once you get into some of the optional bosses. Not necessarily that they were hard, but like I feel like I had trouble like hitting their weak points with the tools that were given to me in the game. The game's pretty generous with like checkpointing, so like you wouldn't have to swim all the way back to those bosses. But like there were definitely a lot of times that were very frustrating because of that. That could have been because of my controller drift, that I was having those problems. But I definitely feel like that was like a big detractor and a reason that I did not finish this game. So let's go and figure out what we're going to do. I think this is going to land over here behind Tunic. No, it's going to land behind Integrate. Again, really liked it for what it was, but I love a good like management sim, but yeah, overall, I just wish it was a little tighter of an experience and that it played a little better. Next up, potentially the best game of 2024, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. A game that being nominated for Game of the Year set the internet on fire. And so I feel like I have a really weird experience with this of like, I loved base Elden Ring. And that game is so much fun. And then I feel like a lot of stuff in Shadow of the Erdtree took the things that I either loved or hated about base Elden Ring and cranked both of those to 11. Exploring the Shadow Realm, is super cool. I loved this different take on it. It also has like an actual like comprehensible story, which is kind of different for a FromSoft game, of like it very clearly tells you the plot of what is going on and is very easy to understand. Also in a twist for some FromSoft stuff, it's like actually a story that's happening at that exact moment. It's not you like exploring something that happened before. And so like that was really cool. I really liked a lot of the different designs and dungeons of this game. But then I found that like a lot of the like side quests, that like the areas, like there's these whole like finger ruin sections that just like feel super barren, and it's like there's nothing to do here other than complete the quest. But this area is like, there are like 3 different ones I think, and they're like combined like a fifth to a quarter of the map, and it just felt like a whole bunch of wasted space for something that was like just part of this side quest, and then there was nothing else there. Some of the bosses in specific, including the final boss, like I feel like were like difficult in an unfair way. Whereas and then like there's a character that you fight who's like riding on a boar, and like one of the cool things about Elden Ring is like no matter what your character's build is, you can tackle any boss. And there were specific ones in this game that I just felt like, as like the build that I was doing, it was impossible for me to beat specific bosses. To the point that like to actually finish the DLC, I just like respect my character and went with a completely different build, and just went like full tank and like just kind of felt like I gave up. Not that it would have been impossible for me to do it, but like when you were I was watching videos and it's like getting into like frame perfect dodges for attacks or like stuff like that. It felt like it took some of the memorizing that comes with FromSoft games and like cranked it to 11 in a way that became unfun for me. Then at the same time, you have bosses like Mesmer, who is here on the top, who is probably like one of the coolest Elden Ring boss or like FromSoft bosses, of like such a cool design, such a cool plot entrance. Like his second phase transition is super cool. Like, yeah, very hard to say, like, or very polarized differences in the different parts of this game. So let's figure out where this is going to land. It's definitely still, despite the major complaints that I have, it's definitely still probably one of the top games that I have played. I think I'm going to land it here behind Sifu. In terms of like, they're both kind of brutally difficult action games, but like I feel like I would much rather go back and replay Sifu and try to finish Sifu than to go back and do another like replay of Elden Ring, of Shadow of the Erdtree in specific, I guess I should say. And so next we have Zenless Zone Zero, a gacha game from the people behind Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Of their 3 games that they have made, Zenless is definitely my favorite. I really like dug the like aesthetic of this game. I love that it's like kind of technology focused. Like there's a lot of stuff about the internet and AI and like being safe online and like those types of messages. I also feel like the story of this game explained the various characters in a way that was having various characters in a way that made a lot more sense. I talked about this a lot with Honkai. Like one of my problems with that game is that combat and story feel completely separate because you don't have the characters that are in the story in your party. And so, or don't necessarily have the characters in the story that are in your party. But I like the conceit here that the idea is like basically you're hiring these people to go out and run missions for you. I also think this game does something very cool, which is like the protagonist is a playable character but does not actually fight, and so it makes a lot more sense for why you're swapping between characters, as these are kind of the people that are out exploring with you. I did get the platinum in this game. I've started playing this game because I think I saw online that it was like a 40 to 50 hour platinum, and then like 90 hours later we got the platinum. And so really cool. It's definitely a game I want to go back to and experience more story once more, like even more gets added. They've definitely done some updates. But yeah, I really liked Zenless, and again, I really liked the vibe of the world, of the games from this studio. This is definitely the closest to like my preferred aesthetic. Again, with like that tech meets like kind of fantasy vibes. And so, if you would have asked me this going into it, if I was going to put this game this high up, I don't think I would have said it, but I think this lands at number 4 for me, for where we're at currently. It's definitely behind Baldur's Gate, but like I really enjoyed my time with it. Let's go back down here. Concord. Oh, Concord. And so I did not play the actual release. I played some of the beta stuff and really enjoyed playing games with friends. That was part of this game. Of course, like Concord kind of got dragged through the mud when it was like only actually available to play for like 10 days or something once official release came out, which like, I don't know, boggles my mind. I feel like there were some major misses here where like it seemed like they were trying to do a story kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, but because it's a team-based shooter, like there was some really weird stuff of like, I talked about this before where like one of the trailers, like I felt like a lot of people were very excited for the story that they were talking, or were excited about the story that they were presenting. But then when it became clear that it was going to be like a hero shooter, like the actual hype for this game just like plummeted. And I'm kind of sad about that. Like, I feel like this is a game where if this would have been a like squad-based co-op game where like y'all are experiencing a story as a group, or you could play it solo, and you're actually like getting to know these characters in that way, I think this game would have been really cool. But the fact that this is like was intended to be like a live service game, I definitely feel like was like did not connect. Like the characters were not interesting enough to pull people away from the other live services. And then the people that were into those live service games are not necessarily digging into story. You have not missed Neon White. That'll be in our next row. And yeah, right. And so I feel like Concord, again, I mean, I feel like it's so much better than like Skull and Bones, but like Skull and Bones lasted longer, which is crazy to me. But like, I think I'm going to put it over here above Cardo. I could, not necessarily remembering everything that's farther down on the list, I could see this being like our bottom 5. We'll see how that actually shakes out, but like I could definitely see that kind of being that row. And so next row, I think we're at 25. No, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Oh, number 30. So we have 3 and almost 4 rows left. Flintlock. This game kind of falls into the same category that I had last year with Lies of P, where like it is a Souls-esque game with some sort of different gimmick, and I really enjoyed my time with it, and then just kind of fell off to play other games. Oh, did you miss me playing Neon White? Oh, yes. I guess. Yeah, I don't. We'll talk about it when we get there. But I feel like Flintlock had a cool vibe, cool aesthetic. It's a game that like kind of like Lies of P last year. I would really like to go and play more. And I was playing this via Game Pass, which means I no longer have access to it. But I really enjoyed my time with this game for the bit that I have. That being said, I don't necessarily think this is going to land super high for me. I think we're going to put it over here above Circus. But I would, in an ideal world with infinite time, I think I would really like to go back and play a lot more of this, but I do not think I'm going to ever actually get there. Next up, we have Dredge, another fishing-based indie game. The idea is like kind of this Cthulhu-esque like cosmic horror as you're out fishing, and then like the world kind of isn't as it seems, as it kind of more and more of this like Eldritch Horrors type stuff begins to be revealed. And I really liked the overall vibe of this game. The gameplay is pretty fun, and I legit might use this as like a side quest in a TTRPG. This idea of like, hey, your characters are like, they've been established, we've played for a bit, some event occurs, and now you find yourself washed ashore on this island and kind of have like a little Dredge like side plot going on. I really liked that side of it. I really wanted to platinum this game, but like by the time that I beat it, I felt that there was so much randomness in terms of what I needed to get figured out to get the rest of the stuff that I was just like, I think I'm good. And it just kind of never like continued to be more than that when it came to like the post-game stuff. But I really liked a lot of the like day-to-day gameplay of this. And so Where'd Dave the Diver go? I think I'm going to put this above Dave. I think it's going to land here behind Tunic for now. No, it's going to go above Tunic for me. I feel like this is such a cool, like, different take on the game, but, like, these two are definitely close for me. Next up, we have Neon White. This was literally right before my Xbox Game Pass was about to expire. And I saw that this was on it, and I was like, okay, I've heard such good things about Neon White that I really want to go and actually play it. I really liked this game. For people that don't know, the idea is like, it's basically like speed running the game, where you have like these various missions that you go on, and like you're encouraged to kind of complete them, like find secret objectives, but complete them as fast as possible. Very quick, like reset the game, and so that way you can try again for a better time, or reset the map, I mean. And so I really liked this. I think it was a very cool idea. Also, like the visual aesthetics of this game, of like you are demons that are trying to basically like fight your way like through heaven, for lack of a better way of saying it, as part of this like way of like earning redemption. And then like stuff has gone on, and it was a very interesting idea. And overall, I did think it was very fun. And I liked the story. I liked the overall vibes of the gameplay and stuff like that. Kind of like Midnight Suns, this game also has like this card-based thing. So like if you pick up a pistol, you get the pistol card, and then that has like its normal shoot mode, but then also you can like discard the card for some sort of mobility. So I think like pistol is a double jump, the rocket is a dash, like the submachine guns like a ground pound and stuff like that. And so there's this really fun balance of like conserving ammo so that you can use it for that effect. And so another weird one, like I think if you would have asked me, I would not have told you that I was going to rank Neon White above like Dredge and like Elden Ring, but like I like this spot for it. Actually, I'm put it above Sifu. I feel like the overall vibe of Neon White is a much higher, like much more my vibe than Sifu is, even though like I do really want to go back and play more Sifu. But yeah, I have, after losing Game Pass, I have like legitimately thought about buying Neon White for a PlayStation and going back and replaying and playing more of it. So. Next up, we kind of have two like smaller indie games that like I found these on like an itch.io bundle that I have. We're going to kind of talk about them both at the same time, just for the sake of them being really like smaller games that like I probably played for like one evening each. And like Labor Party is the idea of like you are a disgruntled office worker and you're basically like rallying all the other people in the office. It's silly, it's cute, like there's not necessarily like a ton of depth to it. It might literally have been like the developer's first game, and it's kind of them just like trying something out, but it was like a fun, silly time. And so I liked that I liked it for what it was. Again, it doesn't necessarily try to be anything super deep, but like it is a fun time. It's going to not necessarily score too high just because it's not necessarily a lot of a game. It's kind of just like an idea. But like, I think it's actually going to shake up the bottom 5. But like, I think we're going to just kind of land with it here. And then Lena's Inception. The core premise of this game is, what if Link got killed in like the training area and you now had to save the world as Link's teacher? It's kind of a fun idea. Very like OG Legend of Zelda inspired. This is not one that I like finished, but I did enjoy my time with it. I think I'm going to land that one here above Concord. I don't necessarily know if there's like enough of it to really warrant it like going higher on the list, but like I did enjoy my time with it. For our third to last row, we have Cult of the Lamb, Star Wars Outlaws, Astrobot, Deadlock, and The Plucky Squire. So Cult of the Lamb, super fun idea of like the lambs are like being hunted down, and then you kind of get rescued by this eldritch entity. And then you go and like start a cult where you're like rescuing these little animal creatures, and you're like assigning them jobs and tasks and stuff like that. And then so there's kind of like this like management side of the game, like in terms of managing the cult, but then like the game itself is like a roguelike where like you go into the dungeons, you fight your way through, figure out what weapons you can get and stuff like that. And then you are going and defeating these like various demon bosses. This game was really cool. I liked this a lot. From a TTRPG standpoint, it is such a fun representation of like a warlock with their pact. Where like you have your pact to this entity, and they're like not necessarily on your side, but like y'all both getting something out of it. And so it's a very fun thing in that regard. I think we're gonna place this one. I think it's gonna land here behind Tunic. No, it's gonna go between Dredge and Tunic, and so. But yeah, it's very cool. It's very cute for like the subject matter, as like you can literally like sacrifice your cult members. But it's a very cool like take on that formula. Next up, Star Wars Outlaws. Man, a game I wanted to love. I love Kay Vess as our protagonist. Super fun character. And I liked kind of the overall vibe of this game. But there are definitely some things gameplay-wise that I wasn't a huge fan of. So like while I do like that you are not a Jedi and we get a like roguish scoundrel story, like you kind of being stuck as like a normal person with a pistol kind of like limits a lot of what you can do in this game from like a combat perspective. This game at the time, I believe this has been patched out, had several like mandatory stealth sections that were just brutal. And there was one, I believe it was at the end of our first stream of this game, where like it took so long to just figure out what was going on, and it was such a hard way of playing it. And like I feel like that did get easier as you played more and more, but like it was definitely an unfun part of the game at release. There was also some like one of the core mechanics of this game is like there's the various like crime like syndicates that exist in the Star Wars universe, and then like based on what you do they can like you or dislike you more, which I feel like was a fun idea. Like there are certain points in the story where you like literally have to pick one or the other, but like the fact that like it kind of is just like number go up or number go down. And then like if it's up, they like you more. If it's down, they dislike you more. And like there's some cool stuff of like you can get discounts at shops for the factions that like you, but like everything is just like a mission away or a couple missions away from being fixed. That was kind of something that, again, I wasn't huge on in terms of the actual how that mechanic played out. This game has Sabacc, which is basically like Star Wars poker that you can play. And wow, is it not good compared to Queen's Blood. Like, it's funny having both of those this year. This game also had multiple visual glitches for me in like the last couple cutscenes of the game that literally took out like all of the emotional impact of like, for one of the penultimate scenes, like this one like polygon glitched and I just had this big gray box over a portion of the cutscene. And then for like the literal final cutscene of the game, it just started looping for me. And so like it finished and then just reset. I watched it again and then it looped and reset again. And then like, I think I was able to like skip the cutscene and that like took me to the next portion. But like, that was really frustrating. That's something that like I would assume wouldn't happen to most people, but definitely took away from my experience with the game. And then so I feel like this is almost like in that same vibe of the issue that I had with Plague Tale, where I love the actual story and like getting to experience that side of it. But then like a lot of that gameplay side of things just like really wasn't the vibe that I was hoping it would be. Stuff of like the Empire is in this game, and so you can go and attack Empire bases and kill like 50 people, and they're just like fine with it because it's a wanted system, kind of like GTA. And once that wanted system goes away, they don't care about you anymore, even though you like wiped out this whole base. But like the actual story I did think was cool, for the parts of it that, you know, didn't glitch. And so I think because of that connection, we are going to come up here by Plague Tale, at least as like our starting point. I'll say the shooting in this game, it's pretty good. It just like, again, I feel like I just wanted more depth in it. It kind of just felt like generic stealth action. And so, even though there were some really cool setups for some of the missions. And so I think I'm going to land this here behind Tunic. That feels right for where I am right now. Although I'm not liking, maybe it's going to land here. I think it's going to land behind Intergrade. Yeah, we'll see. At least that's where I'm vibing with it right now. Next up, my name is Astrobot. Man, Astrobot. We streamed this over here on the channel. You can find the VODs over on YouTube. Such an amazing game. Astrobot, I feel like, does the thing that so many games miss, which is just make your game fun. Like, obviously that's like a very reductive take to have on a game, but like the thing that Astrobot does best is that it is so fun to play. Like, just like the moment to moment is amazing. It's a fun, like, of course, like PlayStation-esque take as you get to like rescue the various bots from various PlayStation franchises or games that have released on PlayStation. And you get to explore the various worlds. They have added in like 5 speedrunning levels to this game, as well as like a holiday themed level. And all of those have been really cool. Obviously won Game of the Year as well at the Game Awards. This game is amazing. Again, definitely encourage you to go check out the VODs for our actual gameplay of it. This game also does something that I think is really cool, which is like, if you want harder levels, there are harder levels here for you to play, which I think is very fun. And a lot of the like 3D platformers, it's either just like it feels very easy or it feels like insanely difficult, kind of on the like, again, like generally speaking, like the Mario to like Crash Bandicoot tier list. And I feel like this game does something really well where the game itself is super accessible, super reachable. And then if you want those harder levels, there are definitely the ones that require much more tight, like platforming abilities as well. I think to the surprise of no one that has heard me talk about it, Astrobot is going to land at number 1 for the year. We'll see how this shakes out once we get through the rest of the list. But like, yeah, I feel like zero surprise to anyone that has talked to me about video games since Astrobot came out that it would land that high. Next up, Deadlock. This is a MOBA third-person shooter from Valve. Was kind of a like known secret for a long time as like, and then eventually I think is currently in alpha. As some caveats here, I have only played this game like with lock and against bots. I have not actually done like any PvP in this game. But I really think this is a cool idea. I generally speaking liked the characters. I definitely felt like from my experience with it, there are certain ones that felt very OP compared to others. But generally speaking, I did think it was a very fun and very well designed system, or like structure for what the game could be. I don't know if this is a game that I will ever play again, just because it's not necessarily my vibe anymore. As we'll talk about Marvel Rivals later on, but like I feel like this game was very good from the bit that I got to play of it. I'm gonna dump it here above Team Fight for now. Mostly because I do think if I was going to go back and play one of them, I'd much rather go and get good at Deadlock. Last on this list, or in this row, we have the Plucky Squire. This is another one that we streamed, and wow, I wanted this game to be good. Seemed like such a cool premise, and like it was, I believe, free on PlayStation Plus. And then wow, like this game I feel like was like mid at best. I feel like a lot of the mini games were just like not fun, to the point that like they literally give you like the option of skipping them, and it's like yes please. And then like the actual gameplay just like isn't great, and or isn't amazing. The story, while like silly and cute, is like nothing great either. And yeah, it's a very visually cool game, and like again, generally speaking, I liked the characters, but a lot of it was just pretty mid, to the point. And then there was the stuff like the mini games that I just really disliked. I think here, I mean, I definitely think it's above Concord. You know what? From like my like one night of Lena's, I think I would much rather go back and play more of that than I would like to go play Pluckies. So I think we're gonna leave it there. And then let's go on to our second to last row. We have Bear and Breakfast, Remnant 2, Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, Gris, and Dragon Age, or the Veil Guard. So Bear and Breakfast, a cool like cozy game where you are a bear and like humans move to the area, and so you start running bears or bed and breakfasts for them to like basically take money from the humans. It's a very fun, very cute premise. The problem that I have with it is like the management side of it kind of started feeling very samey, of like, okay, these areas all need these different things, but it's like, okay, but I have to cook food for all of these people, or have it so food gets cooked for all of these people. But like the amount of resources that it takes to do some of the stuff, it's like, it doesn't really make sense to actually prioritize all of them, or you have to go to all of your various bed and breakfasts to do all of this stuff because you can't hire people to do this task. Like, it definitely started to feel very frustrating in that regard, and very samey in that regard. But overall, cute game. I enjoyed my time with it. I did not finish it, as I like fell off once the game started getting very samey. I think I'm going to put it here below Like a Dragon Gaiden. But I do feel like I did enjoy my time with this game. Next up, Remnant 2. When I started playing this, I thought it was like a Souls-like shooter in like a world with demons and stuff like that. And so I was trying to play it like a Souls-like. I think this is actually just kind of like Destiny with demons. Like not junky in a bad way, junky, but like junky Destiny, of like you're in sewers, you're doing all this kind of stuff. And this kind of began, or I guess with Bear and Breakfast probably began the like games that I was playing until Dragon Age came out. And so this game was fun. I enjoyed my time with it. And by no means necessarily going to go back and ever play this again. I think we're going to put it here behind Bear and Breakfast, but like, I'll put it above Bear and Breakfast. No, behind. I'm going to go with my gut. I enjoyed my time with it, but overall, no desire to go back. I am curious. There's a thing that I've heard before with the idea of like is the game fun or is spending time with friends fun? Of like, I would be really curious if I would have played Remnant not alone, but with friends, if it would have landed much higher for me. But because I played it alone, it did not necessarily get that much higher. Next up, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Kind of leading into Veilguard, I was in the mood for an RPG. And so we streamed this some. I've played this some offline. Overall, really enjoyed this game. And I feel like this is a game that I'm going to never finish just because there is so much here. I really like the Pathfinder systems. I prefer Pathfinder 2E to D&D. I do know that like this game is Pathfinder 1st edition is what it's based off of. I know there's a 2nd edition game in the works. And so like I would much rather go and play that necessarily than play D&D. But this is a game that very much, what I referenced earlier, very much suffers from how good Baldur's Gate 3 was. Of like, I feel like this is a very fun CRPG, but like in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 has come out, this game like no longer really stacks up. I do think this was released a couple of years before BG3, but like there's stuff that's like, some stuff isn't voiced. Some of the side characters like don't necessarily do stuff. It feels like it's also the way that the story is written for you is it's very much like read this wall of text versus we're going to have a character say something in a way that's digestible and makes sense. And so where are we going to land with this? It's definitely above Diablo 4. It's definitely above Outlaws. I think it's probably over here behind Cult of the Lamb for me. Yeah. That feels right for me. So we'll put it there for now. Scrolling back down. Next, Gris. This studio just had Neva come out as kind of like a spiritual sequel to Gris. I'm excited to play Neva at some point. But Gris was free on PlayStation Plus, and so I went and played it, got the platinum. Beautiful game. It was a game that once I finished, I definitely went online and started looking for some new wallpapers. A very like emotional tale that has like very much has like the artist's interpretation, but like you can also interpret it in your own way as well. Very cool game. I loved this game. I feel like this is kind of like the unpacking of this year for me, of like an older indie game that like I finally played and like is amazing. And so like here, I think this is probably, this is the challenge of video games of like, this is such a like different experience from Zenless. And like, I liked them both for their various things, but like, I don't know if I want, like if this would be number 5 or what, but yeah, we're going to leave it there for now and we'll come through and do a pass afterwards. Next up, we have Dragon Age the Veilguard. As a caveat for this game, I have not finished this. I was looking at how long to beat yesterday, and I think I'm around halfway through. So I think I'm around 20-something hours, and if you do a lot of the side quests, the game is about 50 hours from the stuff that I was finding online. Much quicker if you like mainline it, but again, a game that I feel like kind of gets in trouble because Baldur's Gate 3 is so good. Of like, these characters are cool, but like none of them hold a candle to like the Baldur's Gate cast. I love Thetis as a setting. I've played all the Dragon Age console games or PC games. There might be some like side games or mobile games or something that I've never played, but like I've played all of them. This is probably my number 3. I think if I had to do it, I think I would say it's Origins, Inquisition. No, I think I'd say it's Origins, this, Inquisition, Dragon Age 2 as like my list of like, I feel like the gameplay for this is very cool, is very deep, or very cool without being super deep, I guess is the way to say it. And it's a fun like action RPG in that regard. I like that Like, you do have some cool party members, but again, I feel like none of them necessarily hold a candle to Baldur's Gate party members. Um, and yeah, I like the overall threat of this game, of like what's going on in the world. This idea of like these ancient elven gods have been released, and then now they're like wreaking havoc on the world, and you're trying to assemble this team to help stop them. And so we'll see if I talk about this one more. Like, this may end up kind of being in that same category as Strangers of Paradise was for this year, where for now I'm ranking my experience with it so far in 2024, and then if it continues into 2025, I'll rank my experience with that side of it as well once we actually get it complete. But yeah, so overall I am liking this game quite a bit. Where did we put? Pathfinder is there. I think I definitely liked this more than Pathfinder. I think it's going to land here behind Sifu, for at least like where we're at right now. Or does it land above Neon White? I think I would put it here above Neon White for now. Yeah. Okay, let's scroll back down. Our final row, we have HoloCure, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Balatro, and Marvel Rivals. HoloCure, this is another Survivor-esque game. I have no clue what this is based on. I heard this mentioned on a podcast, and went and downloaded it. It's a very like anime-esque inspired. It's like based on some IP, but it's like a fan-made game, and so it was a free thing on Steam. And it's fun, like a very like, again, as someone who has no context for the IP this game is based off of, I enjoyed the characters and I kind of enjoyed the vibe. A lot of the criticisms I have of like 20 Minutes to Dawn exist here, of like, it's cool that this is a more like action-y focused Survivor game, but like you're just kind of locked into like these runs have to take this specific amount of time. And so I think this is going to land over here behind Remnant. And I don't know if like a Survivor game like will ever land like super high for me because of just like some of the criticisms I have of that genre. But yeah, so that's that one. Next we have Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. A new mobile version of Pokemon TCG. In some ways a much more streamlined version of Pokemon. So far we've only had 2 sets of cards. And we're still like missing some very important features. Like there's no trading in the game yet, and stuff like that. So from a criticism standpoint, I do not like the sporadicness and how difficult it is to get the cards you want out of booster packs. If you're free to play, of like this new game or this new set came out, I think it has 5 different EX Pokemon, but you need 2 of each for the deck. And then if you want like to be playing those, you really need a lot of stuff. And so if you are free to play, it's very difficult to get all of that. Of like, I'm still missing things from base set that I need for decks. And so it's very challenging, and it can be quite a grind to go and get the specific cards that you want. And so like, while it does have this cool like aesthetic of like scrappy, like playing on the playground Pokemon that I loved growing up, as like, we're just like, oh, what cards did you open, like, and stuff like that. I do think the actual collectible side of it is a pretty big grind. This is a game that I will, from a gameplay perspective, will be continuing to play. I also like that your dailies for this literally take like 5 minutes. It's not like this super intense thing, and if you want to battle, if you want to do more, it's all there for you. And then a lot of the core of what they streamline from the Pokemon TCG I think works really well for the mobile game version. There are energies, but it's not like they're not in your deck, so your deck is like a much more streamlined version. Such a tough genre to rank with, yes, because it kind of gets into that weird of like, you're ranking it as a live service and a collectible card game, but like I'm free to play, and like, so it's like ranking it against Magic, which I also am free to play in Arena, but like I've played so much Arena that it's much easier for me to get the cards that I want. just because I've played so much more. And so like this one kind of falls into like a weird place there. If I said to try Pokemon at some point, I highly recommend it. It is a lot of fun, and I do like the streamlined version. If people have Pokemon Pocket and we're not friends, let me know, and we should become friends. And so this one is, again, kind of for the criticisms. I really like them streamlining the formula here. And generally speaking, I really like what they have done with it. It feels so good to go back and replay and play more Pokemon TCG. I think I'm going to land with it here behind Erdtree for now. And this is something that like I don't think I'll put on the list for 2025 just because it is a live service game that I'll probably continue to play. But if there's a big enough update, or if I feel like my opinion changes, this is something that like if you come and like check out this list in like future months, like could definitely end up being in a very different spot. And I could see this like kind of bumping up and improving as we go. Our second to last game, Balatro, the poker inspired roguelike. I picked this up before our trip to Disney because I just like wanted a fun game to play on my Switch, and I had heard such good things about it. I think by about my third run of this game, I understood why this was nominated for Game of the Year awards. Of like, this is such a like clean and tight game. The one more run aspect of it is so huge, and I really, really like Balatro. I feel like poker-based roguelike is an uninspiring description. It's correct, but so non-descriptive. Yes, I will say there, I feel like describing Balatro falls into like the same category of like, it's hard to describe it in the same way it's hard to describe Palworld. Of like, Pokemon with guns is like, to use your language, Varath, is such an uninspiring description of Palworld. Of like, the game is a lot more than that. And I feel like poker-based roguelike is also like falls into that same category. Because Balatro is, of course, not gambling, Peggy. It's a fantastic game. The jokers that you have as modifiers for your runs are very cool. You're unlocking new jokers and new stuff as you play. My biggest criticism of this system is I don't necessarily feel like that you're earning a lot between runs. I think it'd be cool if there was some sort of currency or some sort of like permanent ability you could get to upgrade cards. I think that would be a very cool way of handling this game. And yeah, I wish that there was a bit more of that, but overall, it's an awesome run, and there's so much in the game of like, if you want to crank up the difficulty, you have like 10 different difficulties for the decks that you can play. And after you beat one difficulty, you unlock the next, or you can try different decks. And so I feel like there's a lot of really cool stuff there. If you loved how Local Thunk said, he needed to add gambling like FC 25. Yes. So he could get the Peggy lowered. Yeah. It's crazy to me that in a world where loot boxes in sports games are okay, that because Balatro has cards and teaches you poker hands, it is rated higher than sports games. But then again, that's something that like I've always had issues with sports games, of like the fact that like people can check me on this if you want to Google, but like the fact that like NFL games do not have violence where you're literally tackling people and causing harm to people, like that's not violent though because it's part of a sport. Like that's crazy to me. You're baffled how well it performed and said you like this game as much as Zenless personally, and then you're baffled how well they do rewards. It's a great game, but you fear it's nearing overratedness. Ooh, that's an interesting take. I think for me, this is going to land at number 3. Yeah. And again, like we'll see what happens with Palworld post actual 1.0 or just in a while. Caveat of Baldur's Gate 3 is probably my number 1, but like have not finished it. And so, but yeah, I feel like Balatro is kind of I'm curious if Balatro will fall into the category of Stardew, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, these indie games that have like defined what indie means. Slay the Spire, yes, Veroth, another great example of like, I feel like when it comes to like the pinnacle of the like popular indie game, I really think Balatro could land in that place going forward. And they've already done a lot of collabs with the other big ones. I'm just super interested for what like this, what I say this studio, but like what the one person that programmed Balatro is going to do going forward. Of course, there were other people that helped with the game, but as a single like programmer, like Local Thunk did such a good job with this game. And so, let's see. You can agree with those similar games for sure. Yeah, and again, I'm super curious. Time will tell, but like I could see a Balatro being held up as the pinnacle for like future years when it comes to like awards of there being a like, yeah, but there wasn't a Balatro this year. Or looking at stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where again, I really liked Queen's Blood, but I can see a lot of those like mini games that are in like these other games being criticized for they're not as much fun as Balatro. Like I really think that like Balatro and Astrobot kind of both have this vibe of like the core gameplay is amazing. And like there's like the actual moment to moment is just so insanely fun. And I never would have expected Balatro just based on like the premise to land this high for me, but what is such an amazing game. Let's go. Ross says, I'm here for Balatro greater than Baldur's Gate. Rebel might disown you though. Yeah. And again, not saying necessarily better in like a like absolute sense, but yeah, definitely I think for what I have gotten through, I would say that like so far this is a very tight thing. To me, it's as if Slay the Spire had been nominated for Game Awards. A great game, no doubt, just not there for. Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the great things about indie games in specific is that they are so diverse. Of like Balatro and Gris and Animal Well and Palworld, as and technically Baldur's Gate 3, as like these indie games that are like so radically different than each other, but are still like so much fun and such like different takes on games in a way that like a lot of stuff like Midnight Suns, Dragon Age Veilguard, like these are all these kind of like Midnight Suns is like tactical RPG, but like these are like RPGs that are like kind of established formulas that we're iterating on. Even something like Zenless, like it's very cool to see that diversity in the indie game market. Let's go to, again, final game, Marvel Rivals, played in the closed alpha and open beta, or whatever those were. And then the game has been out for less than a month, I think, at this point. Take all the criticisms that I had about like the Concord like characters and gameplay, and like I love what Rivals does. It's so much fun to play as this diverse group of characters. I think we have 30 something characters right now. There's a handful of other ones that have like been hinted at or leaked, and it's such a fun group of characters. I'm not necessarily huge on the live service games, but as discussed, I'm going to just drop it right here for now, so I'm not just like holding my mouse. But as a like IP, as a like franchise, getting Marvel into this live action hero third person shooter is so much fun, and it solves a lot of problems that I have with hero shooters, which is I can't always like look at the character and tell what I'm supposed to do with them. Like you see a character with a sniper rifle, okay, cool, got it. But like because the Marvel characters are so established that like you can throw me in as Wolverine, who I have not played in the game yet, but like you can put me in as Wolverine and I know exactly what I am supposed to do because I already know what Wolverine does and that he's the best at what he does. Like, I already know that just from intuitively and this time that I've spent with these characters already. And I'm really excited to continue to play more of this. The studio has been supporting the game in really fun ways as we get like our Splatoon-esque holiday mode with Jeff. And so far, like the free to play, but like all the characters are free is such an amazing way of doing this because it means that like I don't have to spend hours grinding to unlock Scarlet Witch to then play her a couple times and be sad about like, oh, this character didn't click with me the same way as I thought. The fact that it is free to play, you can buy skins, you can buy the battle pass. I did go ahead and buy the first battle pass because I knew, at least for the short term, I did want to spend some money on the game, give something to the studio in that sense, and they had some cool skins and stuff I wanted to unlock in that. Marasa, shout out to the moment in Marvel Midnight Suns where you meet Sabretooth and the subtext, or with the subtext, the second best at what he does. Yes. Midnight Suns has a lot of fun jokes that I feel like get overlooked. But yeah, Rivals, again, I don't know how long I'm going to play this game. I've been playing a lot with Locke and Chunk and some people in Locke's Discord and having a lot of fun with this game. And again, definitely something that I'm going to be playing a lot. I am curious to how long that will last just because it's not necessarily my type of game. Since I don't typically stick with competitive games for a long time. But for right now, I think this is going to land at number 6 above Zenless. Just because I am really enjoying a lot of this. As some other actual criticism for the game, I don't like a lot of the menuing and like a lot of the UI in this game. It's like, for example, every character has like 4 challenges that are unique to that character. And as you complete those challenges, you earn proficiency in them. But you can't view proficiency for the characters without going and looking at the individual character and going to the proficiency menu. And like, so I can't, like, Captain America is the first one that I got my knight proficiency with. But like, I can't then go to Scarlet Witch and be like, oh, what's my proficiency? I can't just toggle it. I have to go back to the previous menu, go to Scarlet Witch, go to her proficiency menu. And I wish that there's a lot of that stuff that was just easier to jump around between characters with. Or there was other clearer UIs for like just like a little XP bar. So like, just show me how close I am to like getting my proficiency with these characters, even as like a toggle if you didn't want it there all the time. And then another criticism that I go back and forth on is that there's no role queue. I like that in this game, there's not, there's a lot of diversity in the roles of like, you have your tanks, your DPS, and your supports. And then like within those groups, there are characters that like err more one way or the other. So you have characters like Doctor Strange and Magneto that are tanks, and they literally have a giant shield that they project out in front of them that blocks a whole bunch of damage. But then at the same time, you have Captain America that is very like in your face DPS related. And he does have a shield, but it kind of just protects him. And I think that that's really interesting. Kind of similarly, you have Wolverine, who is a DPS character, not a tank, but has classic Wolverine stuff of like temporary HP and stuff like that to make them very difficult to kill. And then like on a support side, you have people that are like true supports, people like Luna Snow or Mantis, but I mean, those characters can still, of course, snipe kills and stuff and are still very useful in combat. But like, then you have characters like Rocket that has like a machine gun, as well as having characters like Cloak and Dagger that like, Dagger is a much more healing based side, but then you can toggle to Cloak, who is a much more DPS side. And so it's very cool how they've done that. And so not having a role queue kind of can suck because the expression that I've been using as I've been playing with Locke and friends is like, a good team doesn't need to follow the comps, but bad teams won't follow the comps. And so like, there's been times where it's like, hey, 1 tank, 1 healer, 4 DPS, and we've done awesome. people did well. And then there's the other times where it's like 1 tank, 1 healer, 4 DPS, and we just get steamrolled, and none of the 4 DPSs will change to a different role to actually help out. And so we'll see how that actually like lands with it as the game continues to go further and further. See if things begin to be established more. Oh, and I should say I've only played quick matches with this. I have not played any rank, so these things could be different in rank. So I'm gonna click save real quick. And then once this processes, we're not backlogged, at least currently. It does not have the ability to do like official tier lists. You're kind of stuck with this like numerical rankings, but we're going to go through and kind of set like a tier lists ourselves as we kind of look through it. And so at least currently, I think my S tier for the year is going to end up being this top row. Astro, Final Fantasy, Balatro, Power World, and Baldur's Gate 3. I think that's going to land as my S tier. My A tier is going to end up being, I think, Rivals through Pocket. These are going to land as the A tier of games that like I really enjoyed, but either in the case of like Sifu or Elden Ring, there was something that like I bounced off the gameplay for other reasons, or Elden Ring of like there are things that I think the game does amazing, but then there's things I think it fails at. And then my B tier is going to be Plague Tale, probably through Dave the Diver. This is probably my B tier. And then, actually, let's go back to, and so this is going to be, so our S is going to be Astro through BG3. A, let's add a space. A is going to be Rivals through, what did I say? I think I said through Pocket. Come on, TCGP. B tier is Requiem. I think I missed a letter. Yes, I missed the E. It's going to be Requiem through, I think I said Dave the Diver. Through Dave the Diver. C is Diablo 4 through so Diablo 4 through, it's probably through Bear and Breakfast. Yeah. Through Bear and Breakfast. And then our D tier is going to be, I think that was Remnant 2 was the next one. Yeah, Remnant 2. Honestly, through Lena's Inception. Yeah. Lena's Inception. And then our F tier is going to be Concord through Skull and Bones. Okay, save that. And so I think that this is a cool way of doing it where like we have our actual rankings, but then I really love tier lists kind of for the idea of like grouping the things together of like, well, yes, I would definitely rather play like more Astro from nothing than Power World. I do think that they are so close, like such great experiences that they are both things that I would rank as an S tier. And same with something here, like obviously like Rivals and Animal Well are so hard to compare to each other, but they're both such great experiences. Great, let's excited to do this yourself too. Yeah, Nate, I'm definitely super interested to see what yours are going to be. And as a reminder here, we're going to do a quick look at 2025 games. We did go like 2 hours of me chatting through these 44 games. But as a reminder, next week I'll be going through the at least 55 books that I have read this year. I'm hoping to at least get a couple more for that list by next week. But I do want to say that those are going to be, that's going to be the goal for next week, is to go through and talk through all of those. And so please, hope everyone can come back and check out that as well. But yeah, so this is where we end. Again, overall, I feel really good about this list. I might come through and do some like slight adjustments on my own after stream or like in a week and kind of just see if I'm still vibing with it in this order. But overall, I am still really excited. We will be doing this again next year as we go through. And then, as I said, you can find the links to my backlog if you ever want to look at my lists. I do track both in terms of calendar year of what I played, and then I do also track the actual release year themselves. And so I do think that that's something that is very fun to do, and it kind of just helps me like think through. I do this a lot just for myself because it just, it encourages me to go and play more games. Again, goal being 50. We didn't get there this year, which is perfectly fine. But this kind of gets me, encourages me to come through and try more stuff and then be able to think about how I would describe them. So let's go and take a look. This is also the backlog. This is just trending. They currently have over 1,000 games that are set to release next year. We're not going to go through all 1,000. We're probably going to go through like, I think there's probably 50 per page. So we might go through the first like 2 or 3 pages and talk through some of the things that I am interested in for next year. So first off, elephant in the room for next year is GTA 6, assuming it does actually come out next year. Other elephant in the room is going to be Switch 2, and whatever that is going to end up bringing. So like we do have like Metroid and Pokemon on here, but if Switch 2 does happen in 2025, that probably is going to then change up quite a bit what this list would look like. I mean, if I got the Switch 2, I don't know if I will. But yeah, just kind of as call outs of like GTA 6 and Switch 2 are kind of the elephants in the room for this. That being said, I am not a GTA person. I'm not a Doom person either. I would like to go and play like the 2016 Dooms. And then like Doom Eternal as like the second one in there, but I haven't played any of them. Snake Eater looks really cool. We'll add that to the list. Ghost of Yotai. I've said before, I never played Ghost of Tsushima. So this coming year, I will probably end up playing Ghost of Tsushima because Ghost of Yotai releases in the fall. I believe it's like October or November. And so I'll probably go through and play Ghost of Tsushima in the spring. So then I have some time to relax and get out of that genre before Yotai releases. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii looks silly and ridiculous in the best ways. If I was going to go play a Like a Dragon game, it would probably be Infinite Wealth. So I don't think this is necessarily going to be one I'm interested in. Metroid Prime is not really my jam just because I've never played them. I did play Metroid Dread and it kind of just was like very much not my thing. And so this is another franchise that like, even kind of like the 3D Zeldas of like, I'm just not sure if this is my vibe as a franchise. Expedition 33, I'm very interested in this game. Kind of looks like, I believe it's like a turn-based RPG with kind of similar visual aesthetics to like Persona. So I'll add that to the list. I hope that this doesn't end up falling in the same category as Metaphor did for me this year, where like there's just so much going on that like it's hard for me to actually get to it. I don't know how long that game is supposed to be. Monster Hunter Wild, I am super interested in. I probably will not end up getting to unless like a bunch of people end up getting into it. But I did really like Monster Hunter World, and so like that one's kind of up in the air. That might be a wait for a sale for me to go and get into. Death Stranding 2 on the beach. I'll put this as a keep an eye on. I don't think I'm going to play this in 2025. Just Death Stranding 1's gameplay was not my jam. So there's that. But like I overall like the story, so this may be one that I end up like watching a let's play of, or just kind of looking at like story explained type content. Pokemon Legends ZA, or Z to A is the proper title. I'm super interested. I loved Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm excited that we're returning to the Legends formula. I hope this game runs well on the Switch, kind of as my major critique of all the recent Pokemon games. But I think this game looks, the vibes that we've had so far, this game looks really cool. I would assume that we'll get a release date on Pokemon Day of this year is when they'll actually announce when it's coming. Elden Ring Night Rain. This is the co-op roguelike take on the Elden Ring formula. When I was watching the Game Awards over on Checkpoint Church with Nate, my joke here was I can't wait for Elden Ring to win Game of the Year 3 years in a row. Of course, Shadow of the Erdtree I do not think was the best game of 2024. See my previous list, but it was a funny joke, and I do think that there's a chance that this will land in a very different way with people. I would love for this to get nominated, especially because of all the people that are upset that Shadow was nominated because it's an expansion, where this one, just because it's probably going to be sold as a separate SKU, I think people are going to have no issues with, which I think is really funny. Let's see. Split Fiction. This was announced at the Game Awards and looks really cool. Let's add that to the list. Avowed, we're going to have this with some other games as well, are kind of in the list of like Xbox games that eventually I'm going to get like a month of Game Pass and I'm going to knock out a bunch of them. Avowed's kind of in that category. It looks like Skyrim, which of course was a great game, but like I don't necessarily know if that's the type of game that I want anymore. That was one of my big criticisms of Starfield last year. Never played a Mafia. Little Nightmares, not my thing. Fable, again, Xbox game that I'm interested in, but I will have to get Game Pass. Dispatch, this is the Laura Bailey game that was revealed at the Game Awards, and this looks amazing as like a Telltale take, as you are someone who like works at a superhero dispatch center. South of Midnight, the release of South of Midnight is probably what will get me to get a month of Game Pass, because that game looks super cool. Outer Worlds, I have the first Outer Worlds, but I have not played it yet. Mixtape looks pretty cool. Very like Life is Strange-esque, which like I've only played a little bit of Life is Strange, but like I like the vibe of this game. I'm super curious. It seems like there's gonna be some sort of mystery going on. Wanderstop, this game looks super cute. If you've read the book Legends and Lattes, which I'll talk about next week, this game kind of looks like it's going to have similar vibes of you're like this explorer that like ends up creating this B&B type thing, or coffee shop, and so it looks very fun. I'm going to keep an eye on Borderlands 4. Probably not going to play it, but like I am curious about it. Hell Is Us, I feel like this game looked interesting, but I don't remember if it was scary. Where's Demons, Humankind? This is not a great description. This is one I'm going to just, Panda says, don't have much interest in Borderlands 4. That's they keep getting worse. I'm kind of in a similar boat of like, I loved 1 and 2. Pre-sequel was good, but not great. And then I had no interest in 3. I could see 4 grabbing me, but most likely this is a game that I'm going to just like not get to unless this game gets stellar, like 10 out of 10 reviews. Judas, I feel like this is another one that like looked kind of scary. Plan, Trouble Judas. Survival is to make or break alliances with your worst enemies. I'm going to put this on the wish list. This one may end up being too spoopy for me, but we'll see. I feel like this one, Wuchang, looked very interesting. I wish they had more screenshots instead of just this. Let's add that to the list. just for the sake of that. And then Shadow Labyrinth. Oh, this is the Pac-Man Metroidvania. We're going to add that to the list. Again, not sure we're going to play it, but we'll keep an eye on it. Shout out to Emma. I'm sure she's crazy hyped for Subnautica 2. Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'll put that on the list. Not sure if we're going to get to it. That's the first page. Let's see. Rematch is from the people that did Sifu. It looks like a fun soccer game. Not necessarily going to be my thing, but if it's free, I will play it. The first Berserker Kazan. We saw a trailer for this at the Game Awards, and it's like apparently in like some like very anime inspired IP that like looks nothing like the other games in this IP. It looks interesting, but in the way that I think pretty much all fantasy looks interesting. Nate had a good take of like, this kind of just looks like a generic action RPG, which I do not disagree with. Let's see. Dying Light the Beast. I feel like I love the idea of the Dying Light franchise, but not the gameplay. And so I don't like the sneaking around at night, avoiding zombies, spoopy things. One Move Away looks really interesting. This is a game kind of is like a 3D unpacking vibe. And I'm kind of curious of like if this is going to be the type of game that just like destroys my soul with an emotional story. And so this is a mobile game, so this is not the game that I thought it was. Let's see, what else? Citizen Sleeper 2. I've never played the first one, but I've heard such a good thing, or so many good things about Citizen Sleeper. We'll add that to the list, mostly as like a, hey, Cameron, go play the first one. Mecha Break looks super fun. Armored Core meets like Gundam Wing Mecha. Moonlighter was a fun game. I don't necessarily think that that's something I'm going to jump back into. Fragpunk looks like a live service game that's going to die within a month, but man, I hope I'm wrong. Splitgate, not my vibe. Okay. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, awful name, but I am very hopeful for this game. Amy Hennig, who's one of like the main people behind the Uncharted series, is like a big part of this. I hope I had their name correct. It doesn't have any on here. But I really hope this game is cool. I love the like World War II Captain America and Tachanka, I think. Do we have the Azuri, T'Challa's grandfather. Okay. And so I'm really excited for this game. It looked really cool from what they showed of it, and I just hope that they can stick the landing there. What was replaced? Sci-fi retrofuturism. This game looks very cool. Yeah, we'll add this to the list. And then Skate Score, Coffee Talk Tokyo. I know people liked Coffee Talk, not really my vibe. Tales of the Shire looks like a super fun, cozy game where you are hobbits in the Shire and you're just like having good vibes. We'll put that on the list. What was this ballad one? Does this look familiar to me? It does not at a glance. Okay. I'm excited for Freedom Wars Remastered, mostly just because I enjoyed playing it on Vita. I have no interest really in picking it up again unless it's free on PlayStation Plus. But okay, let's do one more page, and then that is where we will call it for today. Heard good things about Tales of Iron. Don't necessarily know a lot about it, but that's really cool box art. Let's see. Mark of the Deep. Is this a League of Legends thing? Am I thinking of something else? I think I'm thinking of something else. I said box. Oh, just a really cool box instead of box art. Is that what happened? Let's see. Amazon, Nocturne Elevation, Soccer Manager. Let's see. Nothing else is necessarily jumping out to me. And so, come in boxes and I get it. And the games come in boxes. You know, some of them do. Increasingly fewer of them, especially if you actually take a look at the stores. But yeah, it's like this is the problem right now. If like we have one game, or are we sorted wrong? Okay, we are sorted wrong. We're gonna take another quick look. I mean, this is all like January 1st, so like none of these are actual like real dates. I sure wish we could go to GameInformer.com/the year and we could have a list of games that were announced for this year, but like here we are. I'm excited for a new Tales. I mean, this is like a remaster, but like I do like the Tales franchise. And then let's see, is there anything else here as we go through early release dates? I want to go like through February on this view and see if there's anything else that really like jumps out as super interesting. What is Thrown to the Dog? This is like a side thing. I don't know what that is supposed to be. The Legend of Heroes is like a franchise that I've never played, but I've heard good things. I heard that people that like it love it, and it's like such a deep thing. And then one more just to get through February. Yeah. So that's like our list for now. Let's go and take a look at what we've done. So we got 25 games on here, kind of in no specific order, but like right now, like knowing nothing else about him, Expedition 33, Ghost of Yotai, and Pokemon Legends ZA are probably my most anticipated for this year. Then there's like Dispatch, South of Midnight, I think looks really cool. If Marvel happens this year, I'm very excited for that one. And so we'll see how this actually shakes out. I think I end up having I don't know, it's like a roughly like 50% hit rate or something like that 33%. So last year when I went and pulled this list of games for 2024 that I was interested in, I only actually got to 33% of them. And so there's definitely some reasons for that, but like, yeah. We'll definitely, this game was on there, the Vampire the Masquerade one. This didn't come out. And so, but yeah, so that's our walk through the games that we played in 24 and our ranking of them, as well as games for 2025 that we are interested in. Thank you everyone who came and hung out for this experience, provided your input on the games and on the rankings. Again, you can find the previous 2 years that I have done this over on our YouTube. And then again, hopefully next week we will be back doing this again with the 55 books that I have read this year. And so hope everyone can come back and hang out for that experience as we go and chat through those books. Hopefully you'll hear us talk about something really exciting, and that'll make you want to go and read that book. For people who are watching on YouTube, coming back and checking out the VOD later, let me know down in the comments section, what are your favorite games from 2024? Again, whether you just played them this year or whether they were a new release. So all of that said, again, thank you everyone. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a great rest of your 2024, and I will catch you later. Bye.